Hey race fans, and welcome back to the channel. My name's Simon, and in today's video we're going to focus on setting up Racelab overlays in iRacing. If you're looking for Discord voice overlays or YouTube chat overlays, we've got that covered for you in a separate video, so check out the link in the description below. This video is part of a larger series on the channel dedicated to optimizing your iRacing setup, so check back regularly for more setup guides. Okay, let's get into it. So what are iRacing overlays? These are separate applications that run outside of iRacing, and they use the data that iRacing outputs to allow you to display race information as a graphic overlaid on your screen whilst you're either spectating or in the car driving. And this can include things such as live positions, relative timings, iRating gain and loss, track temperature, driving telemetry, and a whole host more. And these are great when you are racing, but they also provide an excellent way to create professional looking broadcasts of your streams when streaming to YouTube or Twitch. The prerequisites for getting these up and running are downloading and configuring the overlay app to work with iRacing, making sure that you are running your iRacing sim in windowed borderless mode. Most overlays will not be visible if iRacing is set to run in full screen mode. We have a separate guide which talks you through the various graphic settings for iRacing, including how to set your sim to run in windowed borderless, and the link will be included in the video description. The other thing to bear in mind is overlays do cost some CPU performance, so it's important to balance out the number of overlays with the overall in-sim graphics performance of iRacing to get the optimal frames per second for you. If you're looking to try out some overlay apps for the first time, some popular apps with the community are Racelab, Caps, SimHub, Sim Racing Apps, SDK Gaming, JRT, and the links to all of these will be in the description below. Today, we're just going to focus on Racelab overlays. To download Racelab, you just head to racelab.app, hit this red download Racelab button, and that will get you started. Before I do that, let's just chat quickly through the Racelab membership options. There's both a free and a pro version. The free version is great, gives you access to a wide variety of their basic overlays and a degree of customization. Fantastic if you just want to try out the app to see if it works for you. At S1 Racing, we do use the pro version. I'm a big fan of the layout builder. There are additional overlays that the pro version unlocks, and in particular, the ability to make my broadcast look extremely professional with the wide variety of overlays in the pro version is the main reason why we subscribe to this option. Once you've downloaded and installed Racelab and then connected Racelab with your iRacing account, this will be the summary screen that you're presented with. Now bear in mind, you're looking at the pro version for this demo, so if you're running the free version, some of the features will be locked until you upgrade. Jumping into the app settings, couple of simple configuration options here, whether you want Racelab to start minimized, whether you want it to start with Windows. There are a range of key and button bindings you can set in this menu here. And if you want to connect your Twitch account with Racelab, here is where you'd enter that information. And this is useful if you want to use the Twitch chat overlay that Racelab offers. The iRacing dashboard is simply a summary of your most recent iRacing activity, such as iRating plotted out over time, weekly iRating changes, and some of your most recent iRacing official events. And you can see this via road, oval, dirt road, and dirt oval. If we head into overlays, this is the complete list of overlays that Racelab offers. It's a great place to get started with the app to understand the types of overlays available and how you can customize each one of them. Anything with this shield icon is a pro feature, and that will be unlocked if you subscribe to the pro version. If we head to the layouts tab, this is where you can build multiple layouts that will activate depending on the car, the series, or the category selection in iRacing. So we'll explore this a little bit later. The Series tab is an opportunity for you to look up a particular series in iRacing and see a range of information about it, such as where are they running in this week, what is the average strength of field, the top strength of field, and much more information about series that you're either currently running or would like to run. The Setups tab is extremely useful if you're just getting into running open setups, having come from fixed setups. Here you can search by car or by track and find a range of setups that you can try out in the sim and see if they work for you. We head down to streaming. This is currently limited to just Twitch, but if you have connected your Twitch account with Racelab, this is where you can customize the Twitch chat overlay so that you can show that if you're broadcasting as part of an overlay on your stream. So I'm now going to take you into the layout builder where we can create and customize a range of different overlays. But before we do that, there's a couple of settings to check. We'll head down to settings here. Just make sure live positions are on. If this is switched to off, positions will only update in Racelab once you cross the start and finish line. But if you switch to on, then they will update live, which is great. Second, we'll head to the support tab and then we'll just take a read of first steps, especially these top 2 points. The first is to set iRacing in windowed and borderless mode, which we mentioned at the start of the video. Crucial to do this, otherwise Racelab overlays will not be visible whilst you're in the sim. And then secondly, there's an iRacing graphics setting that you need to make sure is updated, and it is set the max cars to 63. By default, it is not set to 63, so worth double checking that before we get started on the next section. When you enter the layout builder for the first time, you'll be presented with a range of different options. The first is a blank canvas general overlay layout, so that's a great one to get started with. You can add new layouts, you can import layouts, and you can edit and copy any existing layouts that you have. For the purpose of today, we're going to select a new layout, and so we will jump in by hitting enter. Couple of initial configurations that we need to do. First is around the screen. I know that screen 1 is my center screen, so I'm going to select that. That's where I want my overlays to appear whilst I'm driving. Second is the resolution. The resolution for my center screen is 2560 by 1440, so I will select that here. And now we can see the background of the overlay screen that we can work with. And then finally, session specific. If you have this set to off, then the overlays that you create here will apply to every session in iRacing. But if you want different overlays depending on the session you're running, such as test, practice, quali, or race, then you can select it here and then you can build overlay layouts for each one of those 4. And when you jump into that particular session in iRacing, the appropriate iRacing overlay will appear. Let's start by adding a relatives overlay. We'll head to the drop down, we'll select relatives, and then we'll see it appear in the center of the screen. First thing to do is decide where you want the relatives overlay to sit on your screen. I'm going to say I want mine to sit in the top right, so I can hit this top arrow and the right arrow to position it where I want it. If I wanted to be more specific, I can actually grab and drag the overlay around, and you can even use these top and right buttons to get it as precise as you want it in terms of positioning on your screen. For now, I'm just going to select top right for me. If you ever want to disable the overlay during racing, you can just come here and click on, but we will keep it visible for now. We now have the relatives overlay positioned where we want it, but you can see it's a little bit small, so let's go and change that. We'll head into the settings cog, and then in the general tab, a range of general settings that we can change. First of all, let's adjust the scale. We'll put it up to 22 so it's a little bit bigger. But if we wanted to change the font or the weight of the font, we could do that here. If we wanted to change the driver name width, switch it into dark mode, or anything else you see on this screen, you can make the change and then you can see the impact in the preview window above. If we head to widgets, think of these as additional iRacing information that you can build into an overlay. Right now we're showing strength of field, incidence, lap counter, and session timer. If I wanted to change strength of field to air temperature, we could do that, and then you will see it above here, now showing us 22 degrees C. And the attached flat map is something I like about the Pro version because it's a visual indication of where you are on track compared to those cars around you. Driver information allows you to customize a range of different information related to the driver. You could change the driver name format. You can add the gear number that they're in. You could add the car brand and whether you want to see that car brand in color or not. You can adjust how many drivers ahead or how many drivers are behind are shown on the screen. We head to driver ratings. You can see up here we have the safety rating, we have the I rating, and we have the I rating gain or loss. This screen is where you can make adjustments to which of those elements that you'd like to see. Lap times is super simple, whether you want to see the fastest lap time in a session for a driver that's around you, or if you just want to see the last lap time for the driver around you. It can be very useful if you're battling against other individuals or want to understand the current lap times that they are running. And then finally, pit information. If you're in a race with pit stops and you want to understand when someone pitted, their pitted time, their completed stint info, or their current stint info, this is where you can switch all of that on so it will show up in the overlay within iRacing. So now we're back on the main screen. It looks good. We can see that the relatives box is a little bit bigger. We can see the added track map and some of the other changes that we've made. But what can be really useful is to get a visualization of how does this actually appear on screen and not just within this Racelab window. And a really great feature here is this demo button at the top. So I'm just going to select that. And you give that a second, and once it opens up, you can now see on my main screen in the top right hand corner, it's effectively showing you a demo of what the overlay looks like. And again, if you think it's too small or too big, or you don't like one of the changes that you've made, you can jump right back into the relatives settings and then you can change the overlay as you like. But this demo feature is really powerful because as you're building up overlays and you're seeing them on screen, by hitting that demo button, you can see what they look like on your actual screen and not just within the Racelab app itself. Let's add a second overlay now. I'm going to add the head-to-head overlay, as that's something I use frequently when I'm racing. I'm going to place this one in the top left-hand corner of the screen, but again we can see it's quite small, so let's head into the settings and make some adjustments. So we'll move the scale up to 22, similar to what we did in the overlays. Going to change the weight of the font to regular. And then the overlay title, I'm going to set to off, as I don't feel the need for that one. And we'll switch it on to dark mode as well. If we head into settings, a little simpler than relatives, but there's still a few things you can configure here, such as the show opponent strategy. P-1 and P+1 is the standard. That's what I'm going to leave it on for me. And then you've got the driver sector times and opponent sector times. You can either show the latest or the personal best. I want the latest so I can see how my current driving is stacking up between the driver ahead of me and the driver behind me. We come back to the main Racelab screen. We can now see that the size has increased a little bit. Let's hit demo for a second time, and now we'll be able to see both the relatives box on the right as well as the head-to-head box on the left, and we can see the changes that we've made. The next overlay I'm going to show you is called horizontal standings. This is one of my favorites because of the professional feel it can give when you're broadcasting iRacing over a live stream. Because it sits at the top and in the middle of the screen, I'm going to disable these other two overlays just so that we don't have any overlap when we're previewing it. And then going to add H standings. Again, we'll adjust it to get it into the right position. So I'm going to hit the up arrow to get it to the top, and then this vertical line to center it. We'll jump into settings, make some more adjustments. I'm going to change the weight of the font to regular. I like to add dark mode as on. I'm going to set the overlay width for the width of my screen. I think this is how this looks the best for this particular overlay. The scale, we want this nice and big so that your viewers can see it. So I'll make my scale up to 25, and then I'll adjust the driver name width so it's a little bit wider, so it's a little bit easier to read the different drivers' names. If we head into widgets, same as with the other two overlays, we can add or remove information here using the top 1 to top 6 options. I'm going to show you what it looks like to add the series name, as this is one that I use. So now you can see IMSA Sports Car Championship is sat as a top widget, and you could add other information here using the other drop downs. If we head into driver information, you can see it's a little bit tight with the first name, last name format for the driver name. So maybe we switch that to just first initial and last name to make that a little bit clearer. And then rotating drivers, I like the fact that this is a continuous rotation, but for me the speed is a little high, so I like to drop this down to 3, just so it's a little bit slower and a little bit easier for my viewers to see the different positions. Again, once we get back to the main screen, now we can take a look at what it looks like in demo mode by hitting the demo mode button at the top. And then if we like the size as it pops up, great. But if there's anything we dislike, we would head straight back into settings, make those adjustments, come back out, hit demo mode again so that we can see what it looks like on the main screen. Before we jump into the sim and I show you what these overlays look like when you're in the car or spectating, I have a couple of others I want to take you through. The first one is the fuel calculator. We won't worry about the position here. We're just going to jump straight into the settings, general tab, all of the things that you've seen before. I'm just making a few adjustments here to scale and to the overlay title. The fuel strategies tab is the key one for this overlay. What you want the overlay to show you. Right now it's showing us the all laps average fuel consumption along with the highest lap and lowest lap fuel consumption. I quite like to see the last 5 laps average fuel consumption as well as the last 10 laps. So I'm going to switch those two on. If we head to the refueling tab and then follow the link, Racelab will actually auto refuel for you if you want it to. And if you wanted to do that, you would come here and switch auto refuel to on. You could select the buffer of fuel that you want in terms of laps. So maybe we want a buffer of just 0.5. And then what is the strategy you want Racelab to use when it is refueling in terms of your fuel consumption? And by default, it's looking at the last 10 lap average. So that's great. We'll leave that as it is. And finally, I want to show you radar and blind spot, and especially for those of you that are coming into iRacing after having run ACC, these can be useful additions. The blind spot is going to show you where cars are in your blind spot and will alert you to that. And then radar will give you a bit more of a visual indication. So we'll add both of those in and then I'll show you how you can customize those. We'll start with blind spot, and this is a really simple one. The normal customization options in general in terms of scale, font weight, etc. And then here you can just change the color mode, so the different color, and then the type, whether you want border squared or just squared. So we'll just move it to squared for the purpose of today. And then the radar option, again, we'll jump into that. Really simple. Scale is the key one to change. You might want to have it in dark mode, so I'll switch that on here. But this is just going to alert you when cars are in and around you and show it graphically as an overlay whilst you're driving. Once you've done the prep work in Racelab, then it's time to jump into an iRacing session to see what the overlays look like when you're in the car. So I've loaded us into a test session here. I'm going to jump us right into the car. Now right now we're not looking at any overlays, so I'm going to jump into Racelab, head into layouts. You'll see that my stream layout is active, so I'm going to enter that. And then I'm going to switch us into demo mode because right now we're in a test session, and in my test session specific, I don't have many overlays up and running. But let's say I wanted to test out what my race overlays look like. So I'll hit race, I'll then hit demo mode, and then we'll jump back into the car. So typically when I'm racing, these are the overlays that I have open. At the top, I have my horizontal standings. As I said, great for when you're streaming. I have some pit information like my pit limiter, distance from my pit box, as well as my pit lane speed. In the bottom left, which is hidden by my camera, I typically have my fuel calculator, and in the bottom right, I have my head-to-head, and then I have my flags overlay. So that's typically what I'll run with. Now there's a few settings that are important to be aware of. Make sure that you close out of demo mode once you're going for a real race session. And then also make sure that auto open is set to on, because that means every time you open Racelab and then you go into a race session, the overlay will automatically show on screen and you won't need to manually go into Racelab to activate it. So it saves some time. That's all for this one. We only showed a handful of the overlays that Racelab has available, so if you do plan on using the tool, spend a bit of time getting used to the different overlays and how you can customize them. There really is a wealth of information that Racelab can show whether you're driving or whether you're spectating, and it's a fantastic tool to get to grips with. Check back on the channel for more setup guides, and if there's anything that you don't see that you'd like us to cover, let us know. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the grid.